What's going on, you guys? Jay here, and welcome back to the channel. We're diving straight into this one because it's a very bad time for the ecosystem. It's a bad time for crypto, and essentially everybody's just going to be beaten down, downtrodden, and you're going to be more susceptible to a centralized body coming in and acting like Terra rebels did. And the biggest danger with the Sub-Dao initiative previously wasn't just you were reintroducing and giving authority to a Terra rebel style body, you were also empowering them with a layer of governance that goes over the already existing working layer. If you want to go out there and you want to apply for funding to create a stablecoin pool for your DEX, can you or can you not just apply for a community spend proposal, write a Commonwealth? Why do we need a centralized body all of a sudden to get these things done? We're going to be going over all of this in this video, but don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment on the way out. Those three things are really going to help this channel grow. So the phased approach to the establishment of on-chain USDC and LUNC liquidity is, from my perspective, just another method of creating a sub-DAO that has some kind of centralized control over this ecosystem. And this really begins to match the characteristics of Six Samurai. Just keep hitting them with different forms of a centralized body, and hopefully something will stick in the end. So they're talking about creating, firstly, a multi-signature wallet through DAO. That's going to have 10 multi-sig signers on that wallet, but only 7 of those signers will be needed to approve anything through that governance layer. They state they're going to manage the funds transparently via DAO. Secondly, they're going to be introducing this whole layer of DEX funding. This is all going to be done through community pool funding, as you can imagine, and only eligible DEXs, so audited, KYC'd, and then community approved, can actually apply for the liquidity seeding. So even with this new layer of governance, it's still got to go through that already existing first layer of governance, creating more confusion, more arguments, and more division. They're going to effectively do this in a way which is supposed to be a phased execution. So they're stating they're going to split the funds into small batches, $2 to $2,500 maximum per trade to minimize the market impact. I'm not confident on this. I'm developing a stable pool myself for LUNC Pump and LUNC Swap.fun. And they're saying they're going to do all of this either through Binance or a cross-chain provider like SimpleSwap, and then they're going to bridge it to Terra Classic. And I think this is going to be done through Noble, and Noble's only just been introduced into the Cosmos from what I understand. The liquidity deployment, which is going to be equal USDC and LUNC, is going to be added to DEX pools with LP tokens sent to the Terra Classic governance for community control. It's more layers of confusion. It's more layers of control. They're stating that the benefits are going to be deeper market liquidity, DeFi growth, arbitrage opportunities, community. It gets endless with what they're actually promising. And then, of course, throwing in at the end increased LUNC burns via on-chain taxes. Frag stating that there's a risk mitigation layer, which is small trade sizes, limit orders, and apparently community oversight to reduce the risks of price volatility or fund mismanagement. From my perspective, when you're funding a stable pool, and this is just from my understanding with my own development team, you need to do about $70,000 worth of liquidity to ensure that you're not subject to liquidity fragmentation as the price of LUNC fluctuates, and people are, like he's stating, able to benefit from those arbitrage opportunities. So we've got all of this craziness thrown into a layer of control, and we really do need to pay attention to the voting on this proposal, because as we can see, the strong supporters right now straight away throwing down their yes vote to get a big green bar on there too. From my perspective, this is trying to portray a very positive image on something that's actually very negative for our ecosystem. Each and every one of these that are voting yes are, as you can imagine, multi-signature signers of this wallet. So we've got LUNC Goblins, LUNC Live, Juris Protocol, Vegas, Hexagon, Rexy, Nicholas Boulay, Garada, Jesus is Lord, and Renzo. And many of these have already voted in support of the proposal, and I assume the rest of them are also going to probably save their votes to the last minute to effectively maybe just use them in a shadow type method. And they're claiming that this is a broad and diverse group of respected community members, and the initiative aims to unite different factions and create a valuable effort for the chain. No, this is just bringing together all of the bad actors on chain and excluding everybody else so these guys can take direct control over the ecosystem. It becomes very detrimental for each and every one of us when somebody wants to suddenly, during a low point, attempt to take control over the chain. Someone who's supposedly gained a lot of trust. I'm not buying into it. Frag develops on a few different chains, VSC, VSG being one of those chains. He also develops his own protocol and project, being Juris. He's also working for our blockchain at the same time. So if anybody's got mass amounts of conflicts of interest, it's definitely the proposer, the person who's going to do a lot of the back work for this. I'm not buying into it, and I'm not happy with the comment saying that these are respected community members. We've got validators on here that are responsible for the biggest hacks and rug pulls. We've got Hexagon on here, all of the previous members of Terra Rebels. We've got Vegas, the centralized decision maker, who initially made the deal with Neblio. We've got Rexy, who's got multiple platforms on chain that will benefit from being a multi-signature signer. And that's why they've had to really come out right and say, oh, this isn't going to happen, to try to reassure you, when really you shouldn't need any reassurance if all of these people are large, broad, diverse, and respected. I'm not buying into this. It's very dangerous for our ecosystem. Now, as you can imagine, and as some of you may remember, each and every one of these that are now voting yes in support of a proposal that they benefit from, they get a seat from, regardless of them not benefit in any financial way, they've got a conflict of interest. So what does this tell us? Well, if we actually go to my recent proposal, which was a very simple request to add LUNC Dash to the official CoinMarketCap links, and all nodes came in with a no vote and stated validators shouldn't vote on their own proposal due to conflicts of interest. So this has actually been distorted, warped, and they've changed it, and they've stated, oh, we didn't mean that, we actually meant this. And effectively all nodes now benefits from this proposal being a possible multi-signature signer of this whole DAO experience. It's all becoming very scary from my perspective, because each and every one of these members of this DAO that they're trying to create dislike me. Another one is the leader of a cult, runs 2 validators on chain. Rexy running 3 validators on chain. These are not people you want to give power of control over. When I left Terra Rebels, and I was one of the I think I was even the first guy to say, look, I'm done with this. This is actually really bad. I was seen as the bad apple. I was excluded. People were told to ignore me. People were told to not listen to me, and it turned out everything that I was saying was true. And this is why I get so, not so much upset, but just a little bit frightened that we're walking down this path, and that this possibly could happen with the amount of support they've got on it. If All Nodes decides to warp their idea of a validator having conflicts of interest, because if anybody's got conflicts of interest right now, it's all of these people that are going to get seats on that DAO. They're going to have the power of control. 7 of them could get together, they could gang up, they could do very, very bad things to this ecosystem. And one of them is telling all of his followers he wants centralized control over the chain. Another one is developing a protocol. And I want to outright state to everybody here, yeah, I was offered a seat. Frag came to me and stated he would like to have me on there. And when I said no, he said, that's a shame. I really counted on you being there. And it's like, you really misread me as a person. I'm never ever going to support any new layers of governance that go over the already existing layer 1 governance. If you want funding for your DEX, it should be done individually. It should be done person by person, proposal per proposal, and it should be done through the layer 1 chain so everybody can see it, and we're not confusing an already confused community. We've got new holders coming in day by day, and some people barely even understand how to stake funds, let alone how to move funds around safely. And you're trying to introduce another layer of governance. You're also posting not just Commonwealth discussions, you're posting your own discussions from GitHub. So yeah, you're intentionally trying to confuse people. You're intentionally reworking what the Sub-Dao initiative was that was initially rejected into something new. And it starts to, like I said, become very similar to the Six Samurai approach. Now, when it comes down to DAO, it's a brilliant tool. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying to everybody here, oh, we shouldn't have this stable liquidity on chain. I'm just saying it should go through the layer one. We should stick to what we know, and introducing a second layer of governance isn't what we know. It's not what we've stuck by for the course of 3 years. It's not what we've prevented. Now, to give you a good idea of exactly what they're going to be creating, I'm just going to create a DAO very quickly. And as you can see in the top right hand corner, this is going to be on the Terra Classic network. We're going to call this the LUNC Senate Overlord Committee, and its description is a centralized group with conflicts of interest and vested interest in control over Terra Luna Classic community funds. This is going to be a membership DAO, and we're going to continue to the next phase. So what I've actually done is created a tier name, and this is the governance tier, and each member of this tier is going to have 1 vote. And what I can also do is add a second tier. So what we could do is actually have these 3 weighted at, let's say, 2 votes per member. We could create a second tier, which is a sub-governance, let's say, for the people. But we're only going to give the people a 1 vote. We're going to add in, our own wallets. We're going to have certain community members empowered with the ability to vote. And as you can see here, the governance configuration is now 85% to the governance tier, and then to the sub-governance tier, only 14.29%. So you can see we're starting to create this governance layer, and it's very, very easy to do. And once they've done it, they can set the voting duration. So they can say, well, we only want our votes to last an hour. We only want our votes to last a day. They can set the proposal deposit. They can even have multiple choice proposals, and essentially, right, you're just introducing an entire layer of governance that we've now got to go through, with a governance layer on the layer one already not being in accordance with a lot of different stuff, never agreeing on many things, and some people swaying the vote, and others working desperately to try to keep the vote up. It all becomes a situation where, yeah, great, let's not introduce another layer of governance. It's quite obvious. And I'm ashamed that this has actually come from a developer, right, that's supposed to be worth their salt, that is supposed to have fought for that decentralized ecosystem, himself being subject to the $120,000 payment that went to Roombas in Terra Rebels. He was supposed to get a payment himself. He was removed from Tobias. He's been subject to all of this stuff, and I think people are just now saying to themselves, I'm going to grab whatever I can before this chain goes down. I've got my layer 2. I can move off into the broader cosmos, and if we've got funding for our dexes, which they're going to need to have, Rex is going to, all of these people are already low on funds, and what are they doing? Oh, they're trying to centralize the chain and get more funds and create a DAO. I really hope this has broken it down for you. I'm going to keep speaking out about this. I'm going to do a video really going over this conflict of interest thing, and do they have a conflict of interest? Should they be supporting their own proposal? But aside that, guys, stay safe. And I know it's really hard to stay safe at the moment. Stay humble if you can. It's not easy for me to do that either at the moment. And just stay aware, and I'll catch you in the next one.